So why do you think big players, BlackRock and so forth, they're sitting on billions of dollars waiting for the market to actually crash? And then what are they going to do? They're going to come in and buy all these deals. That's what I'm here for you today. I want to help you guys survive this crazy real estate market. Ladies and gentlemen, how are you? I hope that you're having a great, fantastic time. This is an interesting time when it comes to real estate. We are seeing crashes across the market in all kinds of different markets. We're seeing trouble left, right, and center. People are losing their properties. Can you believe in the massive cities down 20%, 30%? We haven't seen anything like this since 2009. So what is happening is very, very interesting to everybody. We're wondering how on earth could this possibly go on? And some of the most interesting things are happening these days for the Office of the Superintendent of Financial Institutions of Canada, OSFI. When we look at something like this happens in the markets all the time. The governments are going to be giving direction to the local banks, letting them know which way it's got to go. Like, are we going to have more lending or less lending? Just to put this in perspective, though, what the banks were willing to lend just last year is now 1/3 of what they were lending now. So a year ago, 1% is all the reserves a bank had to hold. Today, you have to hold 3%. What does that mean? That means that they are not lending near as much. They only can lend to 30% of the people that they did last year. So what do you think happens in an instance like that? What happens is now you have to have perfect credit and a lot of money in the bank and an amazing deal even to get a loan, which is crazy. Let's put that in perspective. One of our clients went to the bank and he wanted a $250,000 loan. 250, for those of you who are not in Toronto, an average home here is 1.2 million. So in order to get a $250,000 loan, which is 20% of what you need, the bank wants $1 million of equity, $1 million of collateral for a $250,000 loan, which is absolutely crazy. We've never seen that kind of thing before. So before, you used to get 4 or 5 times your salary in a mortgage. Today, we're now getting 1 or 2 times your salary. Here's the crazy part. In order to have $1 million of equity, to get a 250 loan, you might be at half your salary. So now instantaneously for you to get $1 million property, now all of a sudden you need to make what, $2-3 million a year? It's absolutely crazy. And so this is the problem that is coming up with people who are trying to sell their homes. The only people that qualify are people who are financially rich. Everybody who sees that the home prices are falling say, this is great for me. I'm getting a great deal. But what you fail to understand is that you are not buying a property in cash. If you are buying a property on a mortgage, like 90% of the people do, your payments are higher now than they were before. It's lost a little bit of money, but the interest rates have gone to the moon compared to where they were. I mean, it doesn't take much to go over 0.25%, right? But it has gone way higher. So your payments are higher. They're not lower. The only person that this does good for is the people who are buying cash. So why do you think big players, BlackRock and so forth, they're sitting on billions of dollars waiting for the market to actually crash? And then what are they going to do? They're going to come in and buy it all up. You think that they're crazy? When they're sitting on $60 billion, $80 billion, and they're just sitting there. No problem, guys. Just let it go down the toilet. They're going to come in and buy all these deals. So that's what I'm here for you today. I want to help you survive this crazy real estate market. Please, if you have any questions on Facebook, if you're on Instagram, if you're on YouTube or TikTok, just put the questions on. I'll see them come up and I'll get back to you. If you want to know an instant evaluation of your property, it takes us about 10 seconds. You can put in your postal code and I'll tell you what's happening in your exact postal code. Robbie, it's not the first time. Look back at 2008. Yeah, you're right. This is not the first time that there has been a recession. Absolutely, Robbie, you're right. But very, very different. We're not even on the same planet, how different that we are. Because back in 2008, we only had a little bit of debt as a country, not a lot. Today, we are at the breaking point with so much debt. We have never had this much debt in any country in history, number one. Number two, it's the fastest rate hike that we've ever had in history. So we're in a very different situation right now, even though you're right, this is not the first time that we're in a recession, but these recessions are going to be massive and have massive implications. Remember, when an interest rate goes up, there's a lag effect, 12 to 18 months. So every time that you see online that interest rate has gone up a little bit, like one thing, the effects of that interest rate hike does not happen for 12 to 18 months. So the very first interest rate that they did back in March or April, we're only halfway through seeing the effects of that one, let alone all the other ones that are going to be happening over the year. 12 to 18 months. Every time there's a new rate hike, it's another 12 to 18 months, keeps getting pushed off into the future. You guys, you can give me your postal codes if you're in Toronto, and I can give you an idea of what's happening to your home. Listen, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. The properties that are like 5 million, 10 million, they're losing 30%. The guys in cottages are down 30%. They're losing a lot. So the expensive homes dropping like crazy. The entry-level homes are doing really well. BlackRock is buying up foreclosures. They are going to always be looking for deals, right? But the difference is that they're going to wait until the real price crashes, and that's not going to happen probably in Q2 or Q3 of next year. Q2 and Q3 next year, you're going to see some real fireworks. Manraj, you're asking a question about L8K. That's where you're looking at. So for L8K, if you want to know, in the past year, it has dropped 15.3%. The average property is 648,000 now in L8K. If you want a more detailed breakdown, you can always send me a message at contact@Ruff Team Realty. Absolutely free, doesn't cost you anything. Now, these rates are going to continue going up, continue going higher, and it's going to cause a massive amount of pain. But the banks are being the most honest I have ever seen in my life. I have never seen them be so precise in what they're talking about. And they're telling people, we are absolutely going to keep raising rates. We have to get it down to 2%. Now, will they get it down to 2%? I don't believe them at all. Not even close. Not even close. All right, guys, if you have a postal code, you can give me. I'm a realtor. I work out of Toronto. There's some crazy stuff happening in real estate today. Prices are dropping across the board, but the big damage is happening on the expensive homes. Brenda, LOB is what you're looking for. LOB is up 22% in the past year, but if we measure from the peak of the pandemic, it's down 50% from the spring. Average price is $996,000 inside of LOB. L1Z average price dropped from 1.4 in the spring. Now it's down to 917,000, which is the average. Prices are dropping because interest rates. Remember, for every 1% that the interest rate goes up, we lose 10% of the purchasing power on the loan. So let's just say that you had a $2 million property and you were selling it and interest rates went up 2%. Well, actually, in reality, they went up 3%, right? So if they went up 3% on a $2 million home, that is what? 30%. 30% is huge. That's $600,000 down. Of course, we had some inflation, so it brings it up a little bit, but big chunks. L4H. If you're looking at L4H, it peaked out at 1.9 million out in February, and that postal code is down to 1.4 million right now is the average price in L4H. I hope you didn't lose too much. You're seeing Barrie down 43%. Barrie, 43% sounds like a lot. Now, individual homes for sure, the expensive homes, absolutely, it could be that way. As an average across the whole place, I haven't been seeing that much of a drop, but yes, indeed, massive drops. Also, Barrie, we buy obviously for our clients all the time when it comes to purchasing properties left, right, and center. Okay, like just let's say that we're buying it for them to live in for themselves. We do that, but we don't buy it as investments. Barrie hasn't been an investable place. The interest rate is going to continue to go up. We're not going to see it go down. And every bank, from the central bank in Europe, the central bank in the United States, the one in Canada, is all saying that these rates are going to stay here for a lot longer than you expect. So what is your plan? If you're hanging on to a very expensive home, the expensive homes are the ones that are going to drop the most. I've been saying it since back in April. If you have an expensive home, you should be like getting out of the way of the truck that's coming down the highway. Get out of the way, let somebody else take the hit on it, and buy entry-level properties, or just stay out of the market. That's fine too. Brent Campbell, what's my advice for a young person looking to become a real estate agent? You should be joining a team, I think, and you should also be educating yourself like crazy. I've been reading a book a week for like 20 years. So my advice is for you to nonstop read education. But yeah, you can go at it on your own or join a team. I think you should join a team for at least 3 years, because if you don't, you're never going to get the skills, right? Real estate is a funny thing. We lose around 90% of realtors within 2 years because they can't take it. It's way too much pressure. People don't realize that being a good agent, You don't punch in at 8 a.m. and then punch out at 6. No, no, no. It's 24 hours a day. Every weekend, every night, you wake and you open your eyes, it's like that. So it's very, very tough. Home prices are going to continue to crash. If I was going to guess, and I don't know, I don't have a crystal ball, I knew that it would be happening sometime between Q1. I was expecting somewhere between the releasing of Q4 results, which could be February, somewhere between February and let's say like September, October, something like that at the latest. Somewhere in there is, I think, going to be the peak trough. So that's when I'm going to be ready to be purchasing properties. Average first year income will be for a realtor if someone puts in sufficient efforts. What is the average income that you can make in the first year? That's really hard to say because I've seen a lot of realtors that have come to me and come to other places and they'll make $5,000 in their first year or they'll make $75,000 in their first year. It really, really depends. But what is sufficient efforts? I can tell you that if you're a new realtor and you're working less than 80 hours a week, it's not sufficient. Everyone wants a magic pill here where they can come into the business and they work in it for 10 hours a week, 1 week on, 1 week off, and think that all the money is going to happen. And it's not going to happen that way. Here I am 20 years later, and I'm still doing 80 hours a week. So the idea that it's just going to come to you just doesn't happen. Thoughts on a recession? We're full on in a recession. For any of you guys who follow me, I've been saying that it's been a recession since April, that we are in a lot of trouble. Prices are going to be continuing to drop. The governments don't want to admit what's actually happening, but it's going to be a doozy, unfortunately. I'm really afraid for what's going to be happening with the market. My thoughts and prayers go to all those people who are going to be losing their homes. At the same time, for those people who follow me, do the things that I do and be disciplined investors, I can't wait. This is going to be an amazing time for me. I'm going to be able to buy up properties for 50 cents on the dollar. It's a great time. 2 incomes needed to support a home. Absolutely. I would say even 3 or 4 incomes sometimes to support a home. In Toronto, there's a guy that just won the lottery, $55 million or something. He goes, finally, I'm going to be able to afford a home in Toronto. Finally, after winning the lottery. This is the plan for anybody under 40, is they have to win the lottery in order to buy a home in Toronto. This tells you why it's so out of whack. We can't have a city where properties are 1.2 million and the average salary is 75,000. Doesn't work. What are my thoughts on buying property in Edmonton, Alberta? I like Alberta, you guys. Alberta is fantastic, very landlord friendly. Remember, I always say, look at places in Canada or the United States that are landlord friendly. Canadian banks lend on properties in the United States. So if you want to go to Tennessee, Florida, Texas, Arizona, Nevada, something like that in the Sun Belt, it's beautiful down there. Cheaper homes than in Canada because of the weather, obviously. Fantastic, very landlord friendly. Also in Canada, you can look at Saskatchewan, Alberta, New Brunswick. There's a lot of places that are very landlord friendly. You got to keep your eye open. Robbie, what's your idea about multi-generational living to pay down mortgages? It's like having your mom and dad and grandpa. It's amazing. You should be doing that, right? And that's like house hacking, but with your most trusted family members. I mean, it's not something that I would do, but I think it's great for a lot of people. My mom lives with my sister. It's amazing. So I think for some people, it really, really works. The average, just so that you guys know, the average price in Toronto, this includes all condos, all properties in February at the peak, 1.287 million, almost 1.3 million for the average condo or home in Toronto in February. Today, the average is 1,023,000. That is a massive drop, massive, massive drop. Ironically, around 30%. Ironically, we raised the interest rate just over 3%. Remember what I told you, every percent that the interest rate goes up, we lose 10% of value. And it doesn't happen across the board. The entry-level homes don't get hit near as much as the expensive homes. So when you go look at those expensive homes that are on the market for 15 million and you see them dropping 5 million, 10 million off the price, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Toronto prices are losing a lot, but they're the bigger ones. So if you're not in a home that's multi-millions, you're not going to be losing as much as those guys. But remember, the bigger people who have those homes don't always sit in those homes in a fully maxed out mortgage. They usually own the home. So it's not really going to bother them because they're into it for multi-generations. They're going to hand it down to their children's children. So for you and me, we have to know how to be nimble. Don't hang on to a house that you're losing on. Get rid of it and put your money into safer apartments. Opinion on building on the Greenbelt. I think that's crazy. One of the coolest things about Toronto is that they have this entire belt around it of forest that we're never supposed to build on. Of course, every conservative government that usually comes wants to talk about it, and now it's actually happening. I think that's a travesty. Number two is we should keep the nature environment there. It also hems in the city and prevents a sprawl as much as you would normally think. And by doing that, we restrict the amount of space that's in the inside and it keeps your property values high. If you were one that actually really cares about your property values, you would not want anyone developing on the Greenbelt. If you're anybody that really cares about the conservation of land and so forth for animals, you wouldn't want to build on the Greenbelt. Now, I understand that there is a need, blah, 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 but like always, doesn't matter if the government is green, red, whatever color it is, there are always going to be some nefarious people that are out there trying to make a lot of money off of it. Robbie Bobby, wondering what a 1 bedroom, a 2 bedroom, and a 3 bedroom is up and down when it comes to condos. So, you guys, the most popular properties in Toronto that are losing the least amount of money is 1 and 2 bedroom places. The best unit that you can be in right now is 2 bed, 2 bath. It's the most in demand type of unit right now that people are looking for. So if you're in a larger unit, let's say a 3 bedroom, it's possible that you're not going to get the maximum amount out of that, like as far as percentage of return. 2 bedrooms would be better if I was buying it today. 1 bedrooms were overbuilt in Toronto for many years, and there was not as many 2 bedrooms. Because of that, we're getting a premium on the 2 bedrooms. What are my thoughts on the bank raising rates in 2023? We're most likely going to see 2 more rates. It looks like we're going to have another 0.5% and another 0.25% raise. That's what it looks like. The rates will probably go up 0.5% and 1% more. It's going to be raising quite a bit. And so you got to figure out what the bank's terminal rate is. They say the terminal rate will be 5. The bank rate will be 5. That's what they wanted to get to. So that means your mortgages will be 7.5%. Woo! And it's crazy. I didn't even believe that they would be able to raise the rate 0.5%. And look at where we are now. Unbelievable. I cannot believe it. So the rates are going to continue to go up, which means the prices have to get pushed down. Remember, just last year, you were getting 5x your salary. So if you made $100,000 a year, you would get $500,000 in mortgage. Today, a lot of places, you're going to go with $100,000 a year and get $100,000 mortgage. This is crazy. So for the average home in Toronto at 1.2 million, if they'll only give you 1 times your salary, what are they going to give you? You have to make $1.2 million in order to get a small townhouse. And you can't have a city that's full of people making over $1 million a year with no room for any workers. It's just not going to happen. Absolutely crazy. Remember, any book that you read, any advice, they're always going to say, have some savings in the bank, have some savings in a bank. Okay, so how much do people have? They have 1 month, 3 months, 5 months, 6 months. I met one guy once who had 12 months reserve in his cash bank. Okay. So when these interest rates go to the moon like this, and people's monthly payments are $1,000 a month more, $2,000 a month more, $3,000 a month more, and then you have inflation with food and everything else, how many months do they have? 4 months, 3 months, 1 month, 6 months. Maybe that guy has 1 year. Okay, but what happens when all that time goes through? And this is what they call the lag effect, because people are burning through their savings like crazy. They're putting everything on credit cards right now. And guess what happens when it all runs out? It's like musical chairs. There's no chair left for you to sit on, and big problems. And so that's the lag effect that happens. It's probably going to peak somewhere between February and October next year. Now, we're not sure when, obviously. Why is this market different, and how bad can the crash actually be? This is way worse than 2008-9. Remember, 2008-9 was an American problem that spilled over to everyone else. Today, it's all the countries, the whole G20. Everybody was on the same WhatsApp group printing money like crazy. In 2008-9, we owed 30% of our GDP in debt. Today, we're at 130% debt to GDP. We have never seen debt loads like this. The Central Bank of Canada, for example, just had its first quarter ever of loss in its history because it cannot even make the minimum payment on its debt. Crazy. So how much worse can it be? 2008-9 could look like a joke compared to what could happen. Now, when will that happen? We don't know. Will it happen? We don't know as well, right? But the risk in this market is super high. You have properties in Oak Ridge and Aurora looking to buy something in Sutton. What do I think? I wouldn't be buying right now unless it's a good deal. But remember what I always tell everybody: don't fall in love with the house, fall in love with the deal. So it doesn't matter where we are in the stream of time right now. It doesn't matter that I think that we're going to have a massive correction between February and October. That's not what I'm saying. I'm always looking for deals, because if somebody gave me a good enough deal today, I would do it. And I look at markets all the time and I see properties that are on the market for 6 months, 9 months. Do you think that that guy wants to sell the property? Most likely. And so if he's willing to take a good enough price, I'm willing to buy it today regardless. Calgary is going crazy right now. Multiple offers over asking. Now, maybe, remember, we have to look at the leading indicators. How many offers are happening is usually cash buyers or people who have a lot of money right now. The problem is now most banks are not wanting to lend. And we had all of these new rules for the Office of the Superintendent of Financial Institutions in Canada, where the banks have to hold a lot more reserves because of the potential danger that's coming. Triple what the reserves were in 2021. So now they are being very careful who they're going to lend to. So that is going to choke the market even more, as nobody can get a mortgage. Who is going to win? The people who have cash. Where are the reserves coming from? Deposits. Yes. Yeah. Deposits. They have to hold a lot of cash in the bank now because the central governments of Canada are warning of massive financial contagion and to prevent a massive drop in the market. Because of that, they're forcing the banks to have high reserves, triple what it was last year. So now the bank has to hold on all that money and they're not allowed to lend it out. So they will only lend it out to triple A plus, underline, highlight, exclamation mark, like perfect credit are the only people that are going to get mortgages. Everyone forgets that in 2010, 11, back in those days, everyone thought, oh, I would have went and bought homes in 2009, 10 when they were so cheap. And everybody I talk to says, I'm just going to wait until the market crashes and then I'm going to buy. What you fail to remember is back then, the banks wouldn't lend to anybody. Nobody. You had to have cash to buy because the banks were so scared to lend to anybody. So that's what's going to happen. We're already seeing it. I told you earlier, my friend had $250,000 mortgages and they wanted $1 million collateral. And he had credit over 800, perfect credit. And they would not lend him $250,000 unless they had $1 million of collateral. Unbelievable. What do you think of the China, Russia, Brazil new currency, the BRICS currency? So it's no longer called BRICS. BRICS was Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. But now we see Egypt, Saudi Arabia. There's a bunch of other countries that are applying to get into BRICS, and they want to have a dollar backed up by a commodity like gold, copper, oil, instead of just having it based on debt like we do in Canada and the United States. It's an amazing idea to me. I love the fact that money can possibly be very stable. That's a good thing. But we also have to think of what that world would entail. So if the United States, and I'm not American, right? But if the United States loses half their power, half the benefits of globalization go away. And so that's a lot of benefits to Canada as well, a lot of benefits to Europe. So the remaining countries outside of the BRICS countries like Europe and North America, they're going to have to suffer a lower quality of life for the next 30 years because of that. So I always tell people, careful what you wish for. Thanks so much for coming on. Thanks for all your support, you guys, very much. If you're interested in that investment calculator, go to my website, Ruff Team Realty. It's right there. Contact@Ruff Team Realty is my email, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Keep on crushing it, and I hope that you stay safe. Thanks so much for sticking around. If you like that video, you might like this one and maybe something like that.